Brothers Maximus, which is due on Tuesday, is from the comic era of Roman theater. Now, the Roman Empire lasted in its existence for approximately 800 years or so. Well, we're talking about two separate stages of it, the Republic and then the Empire. The Republic was sort of during its, I'll call it, glory days of development, whereas the Empire was kind of known more for its, I'll call it, sense of debauchery or whatever, sense of overindulgence and excesses. So, I mean, this was definitely a time period in which there were some remarkable achievements in human history, most likely along the things of like architecture and so forth. But the Roman Empire ultimately came to a demise because of these reasons: policing borders beyond its means, crushing national debt, elitist and race-privileged society accustomed to a lifestyle standard supported by others, exhausted vital resources, the decline of the arts, overbearing bloated bureaucracy, and severe political division on key fundamental issues.
Oh, no, never mind. It's okay.
Sound familiar?
No.
At all?
Rome.
Yeah, it is Rome. It is Rome. But it is kind of striking, really, when you make the comparisons, and we're concerned. You know, this one very much concerns me because it does seem like the pursuit of higher concepts of understanding and supporting the arts. You know, I understand the need for changing things and so forth, and shifting, but when I don't understand why 20,000 people turn out to watch other people play video games. That I don't understand. And the decline of the Roman Empire definitely was a trail in the decline of their appreciation and sensibility of the arts as well. So, just something to try and keep our perspectives open for. All right, so Rome, as a civilization, kind of, you remember if we look back at what we were talking about in Greece, the glory days of Athens were around 500 BC, 400 BC. So this is a few hundred years later, and largely Rome has taken over the Greek culture and Greek peninsula by this time. Rome was a very expansionist mentality. And in fact, for those who are not aware, Rome at the height of its empire stretched all the way from the British Isles through most of Europe, around the entire Mediterranean, and partially into the Mideast. And we're talking about, a couple thousands and thousands of square miles at a time when, you still had to deliver messages by hand. So to get a message from Rome to the Wall of Hadrian, which is still located in northern England, because they separated the Roman Empire British from the truly barbaric Scots that they couldn't tame. That took about 3 months to get a message there. So we're talking about a time period where there's a great expanse of civilization, but a very kind of, there are some limitations along the way there as well. So one of the things the governing bodies of Rome valued, as I said, was the fact that they were expanding. And expanding their borders meant that they would conquer a territory and largely rob it of its resources and its wealth and its riches for their own centralized good. Now, in the later days of the empire, they actually split the empire because of that difficulty. So you had the western part of the civilization, which was still centered in Rome, and the eastern civilization was centered in Constantinople, what is today Istanbul, Turkey. And the eastern part of the empire kind of gained more wealth than the Western did. But as they went along and conquered their neighbors, they kind of recognized the cultures that they were conquering and kind of grabbed them and made them their own. And this was, nowhere was this more evident than in Greece, because even their system of religion and worship became Romanized after they conquered the Greek and Peloponnesian peninsulas. So they changed all the names. So Zeus is now Jupiter. Hades is now Mars. Neptune, or Poseidon, is now Neptune. So they all are pretty much the same system of gods and worship and mythology, but it made them their own. And that's kind of why I say they're gifted plagiarists, because especially when we get into the plays, most of these, they're not like translated specifically from Greek to Roman, but most of the existing Greek plays, particularly comedies, were reworked by the Roman playwrights, okay, to make it their own. And Shakespeare actually did that from the Roman playwrights, 1,500 years later or 1,200 years later, wherever it is. So they gave it their own flair, but one big difference, again, between the Roman society and the Greek society was questioning their existence on earth, the relationship with the gods, things like that. That was not so much the case in Roman society. Roman society kind of really, I'm going to say, aped or resembled Sparta a little bit more in their value system. So virtually all of this wondering what our purpose is, why we're here, how things work, kind of disappears, kind of fizzles out in Rome, because their value system is more placed on mathematics and engineering, building structures, building, what are those things called? The conduits of water.
Aqueducts.
Canals. Aqueducts. Yes, thank you. So among the things that they valued were a devotion to the Republic's values, which was the expansionist mentality that stemmed from things like discipline and duty. And the Roman citizens were required to, or at least males were required to, serve in the army for a term, and have their campaign to expand the border in some way, shape, or form. So there was very much a hierarchical element to it, from the emperor to the senators, who operated in a way that the emperor still had final say over things, but they were highly influenced by the senators. And oftentimes, if senators didn't like the emperor, you'd get the old Julius Caesar treatment on them. Okay, so it was kind of a precarious thing to be emperor, but it was also, divisive, and it was a plush position, to be sure. So the notion of behaving yourself in a proper manner, which is a very different idea than us behaving ourselves in a proper manner, was a value within the Roman systems of discipline and duty, and economy, meaning the acquisition of wealth and the effective distribution of it. That's why there's so many massive, impressive structures. How many of you have, I have not been to Rome myself, but I've certainly seen Roman structures that have stood the test of thousands of years. Has anybody been to Rome at all? Okay. Have you seen some of the ruins there, Gina, Emma? What did you see?
I saw the Colosseum.
Mm-hmm.
It was really amazing.
To think that that is built by hand and built at a time, where we didn't have computer drafting equipment to be able to, put these things together. Because the Coliseum seats about 50,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in Italy as well, I think like in Venice, it was in, yeah, we went to Amphitheatre and watched Aida, the opera.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that when I went with my school in 2013, which was amazing. We were like right at the top as well, so you could like see everyone. It was really awesome.
And that's a venue that's been modernized, right? Yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
Is it still?
It's all still stone and stuff. With,
Yeah.
like wheelchair access.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that now, but yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So the use of all their ability to build these things, of course, is coming from the money that they've acquired from conquering other places and becoming their rulers. Now, their performances are very kind of, I'm going to say, reflective of that tendency. So in the time when Greece is performing and putting on the festival Dionysus, for example, things in Rome, which of course is just a neighboring place on the Mediterranean Sea there across the Adriatic, they're a lot more scattered. And when I say it has a sort of circus-like atmosphere, performance typically took place around a festival of some kind, but you would have things like prize fighting and bear baiting, juggling. We don't have the sophistication of things like gladiators or the chariot races yet. So this is kind of like if you were to go